In this video, I'm working on finishing up this botanical wall art. And we started by making a slab, adding the largest forms, which was for me this pinch pot form that's upside down, so hemisphere covered by tiny hemispheres, and then these pinched leaf shapes. And when I stopped, I had not yet attached these, so I'm going to go ahead and start right where I left off by attaching them. So I'm going to leave those edges curved, and in order to do that, I'm only going to score the center of this form and where it's going to touch. So you can see that those are the same size and they're heavily scored. And if you don't have white vinegar at home, you can make some slurry just with a little cup and water and little bits of the clay that came in your big bag. Then I'm going to stick these two sides together. I'm trying to line it up pretty well. This is pretty thin right here, and I'm choosing to leave it attached to my square, but as this dries, if I bump this, it's going to break off. So you just want to be really careful if you decide to leave things kind of sticking out over the edge of your frame. I want to start working on the smaller forms and the overlapping forms. And this part of the process is probably going to take a little bit longer than getting the big forms and rolling a slab and cutting a square. So I'm asking you to pay attention to detail at this point. Look at my original composition. You can see that this stem goes over the leaf. I feel pretty comfortable letting that happen. So I'm going to start there, and I'm just going to take a soft piece of clay and roll a little coil. So this is much thicker than it would be in real life, but one of the things about clay is that it doesn't like to be long and skinny and just floating out in the air. So I have to thicken all of the forms just a little bit so that they don't break off. Okay, and then since this sticks out or is over the leaf, I'm going to go ahead and just lightly press the leaf down just a little bit right there so that this stem form can be closer to the background. I want to look at the shapes that are on my leaf, and so I'm just going to draw that shape in. And you can try a needle tool. A needle tool might leave a line that's a little bit too sharp. So another tool you can use is just a regular pencil. I found a nail brush, and since my clay is very soft, I can actually brush some texture right into this clay. And that's kind of a cool trick. So maybe you have like a toothbrush or something, you might use something like that to add some texture to some of your natural forms. The next thing I want to address are the things that are going over the leaf. So I already did that a little bit here, but I have another stem, and I have part of a leaf in my composition. I'm actually going to skip that leaf, and I'm just going to work on the stems, because I feel like adding another leaf there would crowd this original element a little bit too much. So remember that your composition is a starting point. It's a launching off point for what you actually create. It doesn't have to end up looking exactly the same. This stem is a little bit more angular, so I'm actually going to put some bends in it. And the way that I do that with my soft coil is I'm just going to push the coil together. So I'm just going to kind of push it to create some little angles in it. And that's going to be a good place for me to attach a branch. I want to think about all these tiny details, and to me it looks like they're kind of clumped together. So I'm going to make some little clumps of seeds, and the way that I'm going to do it is just start with a coil, and just going to make it really thin and then kind of flatten it on the end. So it sort of looks like one of these little bally seed things on the end. And then I'm going to make another. I'm going to just twist them together so that they stay together. And then I'm going to add them to the ends of my branches. If you have more time, you might consider putting some of the smaller details, even tinier details, onto your botanical wall art, such as these feathery lines or even the textures that you see in the stems. This is going to be a pretty heavy piece because it is made out of clay. So I want to make sure that I create some secure way that it can hang from the wall. The easiest way is to get a small piece of clay, make it into a ball, flatten it out just a little bit, so it's about the same thickness as your slab. Then I'm going to get something round, like maybe the end of this paintbrush, and I'm going to press it right into the middle against a hard surface, making kind of a donut. Next, take your needle tool and you're going to cut this donut in half. Now I have two matching loops that will fit on the top of my slab so that I can hang it. I just have to slip and score it now. Make sure that you really meld these little loops to the edge of your slab. That way they don't pop off when they dry or get fired. The only thing that's left to do is to smooth these sharp edges. So I'm just going to take my sponge and just very gently go over anything that looks like it could be sharp. If the clay were to be fired with these sharp edges, they could actually become so sharp that you could get cut handling your wall piece. Don't forget to lightly cover your project when you're done. Even if you're all the way done, when you transport this to the school, if something breaks off, it's much easier to fix at the school while the project is still slightly moist.